Hey everybody, welcome back to Tim Travels. It's Terry, your host. I am coming to you from Chicopee, Massachusetts. I'm at this, what do you call this place? Pride truck stop right off of the Mass Turnpike. I guess there was a big accident. I got a notice from our fuel desk about Mass Pike being closed for a truck rollover, and then apparently that was on the westbound side, and I guess there was an accident in the rubbernecking on the eastbound side. That was over by east of Worcester. So fortunately I didn't have to be on the Mass Pike today. Got my delivery made. I got this is one of those deals where, sometimes loads don't make as much sense to you as maybe they do to somebody else. But so I got a deadhead that actually takes me back past the terminal in Pittston back to Hazleton, PA, and then just taking a load, drop and hook up to Baldwinsville, New York, which is right outside of Syracuse. The good thing is it pays pretty well, even though the deadhead is actually longer than the loaded miles, and that's kind of just something to kind of a placeholder. I'll deliver that tomorrow sometime, but really the goal is to get me out to Missouri. I've made a connection with the person who's going to be on my truck next, and I talked with them today, and there'll be more information to follow on that. So that's like whatever load I get, I'm going to be headed out that way towards Springfield, Kansas City, where just to get out there to Missouri. So a couple of things real quick. First of all, I guess this, even though I just described a bunch of stuff, first of all, I just want to thank my buddy Fred, and here's a picture of Fred and I and some food that he brought me, which is the second time he's brought me food. But I just want to, so just here's a picture of us. So Fred probably knows as much or more about Prime than I do. He's an avid Prime follower, but Fred's not just a groupie. He has a CDL. He's been driving for years and years, and I think he's going to come to Prime at some point. He does have a big shoulder surgery this week, so Fred, keep you in our prayers. He's going to have a little rehab to do after that, but I think he'll be back stronger than ever, and then maybe we can get him to make the leap over to Prime. And I think he'll come over as an A seat because he's got lots of experience, and I think he'd be a great asset to the company. So hopefully that can happen at some time. So the other thing I wanted to mention up front before we get to the winter kind of safety tips, and stay tuned for that, because I'm not going to get on here and tell you to slow down, okay? You're going to hear that from lots of other people. You're going to see it in videos. I'm not going to tell you about chain laws. I'm going to tell you some stuff that I've learned over the years as a guy who grew up in a place that gets mountains of snow, Western New York, and who's driven in a lot of snow over the years. So just hang around for that. I think it'll be worth it. So a couple of times I've come across, if you work at Prime and you call your fleet manager, that every Monday, like clockwork, if you are placed on hold, and you always are going to be placed on hold, you're going to get the message from Steve Field, who's the director of safety at Prime, based on the safety meeting that happened the previous Friday. And it's always good information. Steve's always got some good insights and kind of gives an update on whether there were any bad wrecks or whatever, and just recaps that whole meeting. So it's a great digest, if you will, to listen to. But the other, and so I always like Heck, I would probably call in on Mondays just to hear that, because it's always good info. The other message, though, that I've noted recently is from the woman in the tractor shop, and I apologize that I can't remember her name, but I do definitely listen to her messages, and she always has some good information. But one of the things that I noted in her most recent recording is she mentioned some stuff that was not company specific, but was almost like an outside source was saying stuff to Prime. And one of the things was, pull forward when you're done fueling, right? And the other thing that I thought was, it does need mentioning, she said, when you stop at a truck stop, get the trash out of your truck. In other words, don't be like this guy. That is actually a guy, I took that picture. He was at a truck stop. He backed in beside me at a truck stop in Ohio. It's been a while, but I was just so shocked at that mountain of crap in his truck. And I was like, can you imagine what I don't even want to imagine what I couldn't see. But she mentioned getting the trash out of your truck. She also mentioned using your points and the relationship we have with different truck stop companies, whether it's TA, Petro, or the Pilot Flying J or Loves. Get a shower. And I wonder if mechanics at Prime are reporting that they've had to get in trucks that are nasty. But it's kind of interesting. I've never heard that message from a company before. I mean, that's kind of like truckers talk about it, but I've never heard it like through an official channel, like go wash your ass and get the crap out of your truck. But anyway, if that applies to you, I'm just saying they mentioned it. Take it for what it's worth. Okay, so let's talk about winter driving and some of the strategies I've used to be safe. And I'm not saying I'm the only guy that does this. And, but I feel like sharing it. If I can keep one person from sliding off a road or one person from, some kind of danger, then it's worth me saying it. And if you think it doesn't apply, then you can turn me off. So here's what I think is really important, and this is really, really important for new drivers especially. If this is going to be your first winter coming up, all of these things I guarantee will be able to help you and also cut down a little bit on the stress that you're going to feel as the winter months go. First thing, pay attention to the weather. It's not going to be good enough to just know what's in front of your windshield. That's not a weather report. That's the weather you're in. Okay? Weather Channel app, I strongly recommend it. It will send you updates on your location as long as you turn on the GPS function in the app. So you'll know when there's going to be snow or rain or ice. I find it very useful. The other thing that it does really well is with a couple of touches, you can pull up the radar for where you are, and you can see a future radar profile. So there are lots of websites that do that, but I recommend getting one of them. Another website or app, now the app you have to pay for, but that I recommend at least having the website, saved to your favorites, is called Ventusky. It's VENTUSKY.com, Ventusky. And Ventusky is super helpful for wind. And, knowing what wind speeds are and wind gusts are, and also forecast for those. And it's really easy to use. Well, I shouldn't say it's really easy to use. It's not as easy to use as a lot of weather maps because it doesn't have a lot of the landmarks, and when they do, like cities or whatever, it's a little bit smaller writing and stuff. But if you can, but you can move it around and get to where you are, and you could see where you're going. So if you're like, hey, I'm in Omaha and I'm gonna drive from here to Laramie, Wyoming, what are the winds gonna be like going across Nebraska? What are the winds gonna be like when I get past Laramie and I'm going, past Elk Mountain and I'm headed out towards Rawlins or Evanston or whatever. Or if you're going, up and down 25, let's say you're going up into, Montana or whatever, up that way. It's really useful. And I've found that it's pretty easy to use because once you understand the colors and what they mean, then you don't even have to actually see the numbers. But like I said, it's a great forecasting tool. But you got to know what the weather is like, where you're going, where you're headed, the road you're on. Now, once you know the weather, and if you're a truck driver, you have to pay attention to the weather all the time. That's a year-round job, okay? You might be in a storm, but you shouldn't be in a storm that you didn't know about. You should know what's coming. That's part of your job, I think. And actually, it's how you're gonna stay safer on the road. The other thing is, once you get that weather information, use it wisely. What do I mean by that? The most dangerous time to be in any kind of inclement weather is when it first starts. So, let me give you an example. Last year, I had a load to pick up in the Columbus area, and it was going to Chicago. There was a winter storm coming in. In fact, when I went to pick up, my DM said, hey, can you get there by 4 because they're closing early? And I said, yeah, I'll be there at like 3:15 or whatever. I get there, they're like frantically trying to pack up because there's this winter storm coming. But you walk outside, it's like a little chilly, little overcast. No, nothing indicating that a major winter storm was coming. So I know that for the most part, winter storms move from west to east. So I know that when I leave Columbus, I'm heading to Chicago, so I'm heading west. So I'm heading towards the storm. I'm closing the distance on that front, right, the front of the storm. I'm closing the distance quicker than if I just stayed put. So here's what I do. Since I know that the most dangerous time in a storm is when if you're on the road, that is when it first starts to hit, because then everybody's rushing to get somewhere. People maybe not prepared, maybe it took them by surprise. And also, none of the snow removal or, surface mitigation efforts have happened other than maybe like the pre-treatment. But no, the plows aren't out. A lot of times you see these enormous traffic jams. People are just frantic. So what I did is I said, okay, I'm going to grab this trailer, and I was picking up at Cintas and going to Cintas in Chicago. I pick up the trailer. I start heading west on I-70. I have already at that point made a decision. As soon as I start seeing the winter weather, I'm going to find the next safe place to park, like a truck stop, and I'm going to park and do my 10 hours while the storm blows over me. And in that 10 hours, all the cars are going to get off the road. The plows will have had a chance to work their magic and plow and spread salt, etc., right? And then I knew I was picking up some time. I'm picking up an hour getting into the central time zone. So what do? I get out to around Springfield, Ohio. Ice pellets start hitting my windshield, right? I start seeing ice pellets bouncing up off the road surface. So I know, 4 miles away or whatever, there's a Love's. So what do? I pull into Love's, okay? That gets me off the road as the storm's beginning. It also gets me a parking spot, because over the next like hour and a half, that pretty empty truck stop just became like a mess, right? Like everybody was trying to bail out. But by then, there's like half an inch of these ice pellets, and now it's just like regular snow. So what do? I sleep, I do my tent. I get on the road around 2 a.m. And you say, well, why would you want to go out at 2 a.m.? Because by 2 a.m., the snow had pretty much tapered completely off. I get on 70. There's one lane that's pretty much bare pavement. It's been completely plowed down. And there's a few truckers on there. No cars at all, really. No cars. Few truckers. Everybody's doing 55. And there's even a lane that's mostly clear if somebody crazy really wants to pass. What do? We do 55 miles an hour all the way over to Indianapolis. Now here's the thing. Every mile that I proceed westward is a mile that's farther away from when the storm happened there. So by the time we get to Indianapolis, I think it's 465 that goes around Indianapolis. So I cut up 465 to get up to 65 to go up to Chicago area, up to Gary. That has several lanes open. Traffic's just kind of zipping along. And then 65, same thing. By the time I get to 65 and get up towards Chicagoland and the sun starts coming up, it's not perfect, but it's pretty clear. But I took myself out of danger, and then I got on the road with people who kind of knew what they were doing. Right? They were thinking like I was thinking. So that's a long way of saying get off the road and get on later, even if the snow's not completely gone. Okay? Another thing that's crucial in the wintertime is keeping your windows clear. Now, it's kind of funny. I talked to a dude who's from Georgia the other day at the terminal in Springfield. And he was telling me about the first time he got in winter weather. And he said he turned the defroster on and it just made things worse. That's what he said. And I'll tell you why defrosters make things worse, at least initially. It's because the inside of the windows is dirty. It's not always the reason, but if you don't keep the inside windows clean, in other words, clean both sides of the glass, on the doors and on the windshield, the moisture attaches to the dirt that's on the window. It's a lot easier to keep windows clear with a defroster when they're clean on the inside. Outside, you just kind of got to deal with it. And speaking of outside, another pro tip, winter wiper blades. I know if you're from Florida, you probably never heard of those, or Texas or Louisiana, you probably never heard of those. Okay, winter wiper blades. They don't have a slot in them, so it's a blade, and then the top part where it connects to the arm is all solid, and it's usually kind of like loose rubber, like almost the side of a wrinkle wall dragster tire. Those things will not collect ice like a slotted wiper will. Use them for what, they're better in the winter, right? They're winter wiper blades. The other thing that, and this is kind of like what your taste is. I don't bother to try to clean my windshield with the windshield washer unless I'm stationary. And the reason is because a lot of times when you get a buildup, if there's moisture coming off the road spray and it's winter, just keep your wipers on, right? Even though it's dirty water, you're keeping things lubed up and moving it off the windshield. But if you get in a situation where you're maybe it's all gummed up, it may benefit you to just stop for a moment and clean the windshield, even just with the wipers, while you're sitting still, because then it's spraying the windshield, without wind blowing over it and without all this other crap coming on at the same time. You can get a nice clean windshield and then try to maintain it with road spray. I know those are kind of like random thoughts, But, you know, staying out of a ditch is job one, okay? And if, you know, you will be told, and this is true, if you think it's too sketchy, then just stop, just pull over. The other thing to be cautious about is, you know, everybody knows you have better traction when you have a loaded trailer, okay? So if you're empty or near empty, you got to be worried about traction, and you got to be worried about your sail area if you're in a place that's prone to get high winds, which is a lot of the U.S. in the wintertime. And, you know, just take it easy. I mean, you know, people at Prime have been talking about winter weather's coming. No, that's wrong. Winter weather is already here, and I'll tell you why. Because my trainee, Gabe, who you met in my other videos, he's already gone through a snowstorm in Wyoming. We were coming across Wyoming the other day, and even though it was 41 degrees outside, he woke me up, and I wake up to a winter wonderland. And then, of course, we see a truck that's jackknifed on the other side of the road. This is on I-80 in Wyoming. It's wintertime, people. I don't care what the calendar says. I don't care what the tree leaves are telling you. It's winter somewhere, you know, to paraphrase an Alan Jackson song. It's winter somewhere. And, you know, it doesn't matter if 99% of the country is basking in a nice sunny day. If there's a freak snowstorm and you get caught in it and you don't react correctly, you know, you can have a crappy day even in September. So anyway, I hope that was helpful. If you got questions, I'm happy to answer them. And oh, by the way, chains, real quick, chains. I carry them. Why? It's the law. But unless somehow I got stranded somewhere like on Vail Pass, I'm not going to use them. Why? Because if you got to chain up just to get somewhere, then you just should either choose a different route or wait. Okay? And by the way, all the states that have chain laws, they all have really pretty good websites. Wyoming has a great website that breaks down I-80 by sectors. California has a really great website if you got to try to get over Donner. You know, you can get alerts like when Donner Pass opens up and you don't need chains. I've waited down in Nevada, you know, down by Reno for a couple, 3 hours. It clears up, they get the plows get out there and work their magic, then I don't have to chain up. And the time that I spent sitting there that's much less stressful than me being up on a frickin' mountain trying to get chains on so I can save, what, an hour? So I can get, because then I got to take the damn chains off, right? It's not like I can just put them on and drive all the way to Sacramento with them on. So I just don't see, you know, a ton of value in chaining unless it's a bona fide emergency. And if you keep track of the weather, it shouldn't be. So anyway, take care, be safe. Winter's here. That's my that's the theme for today. And yeah, we'll be back with you, let you know what's going on. Bye.